When James and I first met Eliot Aitken, it was our first and only Rundgren Radio Event in Akron, Ohio. As we were departing the party space, Eliot and his wife Michelle walked up to us to introduce themselves, as we were all clearly in the 1% of the youngest people at the gathering to celebrate the art of the wizard. They told us they were from Scotland, which really put in perspective the reach of Todd's work, far out of James and I's circle listening in our basements drinking beer.
After connecting through social media, I began to see into Eliot's level of fandom for many artists, but specifically when I started to notice his name the most was during the many hours spent scouring TR Connection, looking for those Todd nuggets Zach and I thrive on, and help us continue our conversation here in the Toddcast Cleveland. Though he shares a similar passion for other virtuosos, such as Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and of course, Frank Zappa, we gather here to discuss Eliot's journey with Todd Rundgren and his music, as well as the many places the art and performances have taken him. So with that, Eliot, thank you again for joining us. My name is James, and this is Zach Wolf. Tell us about the beginning of your journey with Todd.
I was probably about 9 years old. Growing up in a house where 70s and 80s music was like prog music, a lot of rock was prevalent, and Todd was one of those through my uncle's record collection. And I think I heard in a car journey one day, I heard "A Dream Goes On Forever" and "Public Servant." It was like a mixtape thing that you had on the car. And I remember asking him who these guys were, thinking they were two different artists. And of course, they were the same guy, and I was just gobsmacked that one guy could write two diverse songs like that. And
so "Public Servant" was one of the first Todd songs you heard? Dude,
yeah,
that's so sick.
Yeah.
I think "A Dream Goes On Forever" was first.
Uh-huh.
I think. And then in the same sort of time, I heard "Public Servant," and I was just so thrown aback that this was the same guy. I had to hear more, basically. And I remember digging out the LPs that he had available, where he had "Nearly Human," he had "Healing," and I remember he had Todd as well. And it just grew from there with me. I just had to hear more and more. Anytime I went into the record shops, it was always Todd or other artists that I liked at the time. But Todd was, I built up my Todd collection very quickly. I think I was about 11 years old by the time I completed it. And that was about 1993. So I think No World Order was just around about the time it came out. And I think, as I was getting into him, I think the general feeling was that he was maybe going off the radar a bit, or not quite as prolific as he was in his songwriting. And then round about the early 2000s, when I was at university, I remember Liars came out and kind of hit everyone pretty hard that he was generally back with a high level of songwriting and album production that everyone knew him for back in the day. So that was basically how I got into Todd, through family.
Yeah, that's a really awesome story, because you don't hear people say, "Oh yeah, Public Servant" or anything off of Second Wind. Rather, is like the
intro.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're the person who got you acquainted with. You said it was "Healing," "Nearly Human."
I mean that was all. They were in my uncle's record collection, so I remember listening to those at an early stage. But I mean, very quickly I heard the rest of the catalogue. Hermit.
Yeah. And those are great. The things that you listed off are amazing things that really give you this spectrum of Todd's work. Yeah. And especially in his production at that time, like the production of Todd and "Healing" and "Nearly Human," they're all completely different, but they're all very much the same when you really pinpoint it. So that's incredible, man. When was the first time that you had seen Todd?
My first Todd show, I couldn't go and see Liars because I didn't have any money. And I remember when I was young, even younger, obviously, about 7 years before that, he took the solo show of No World Order over here when he was in the pod. I was just far too young to go to that.
Yeah.
In university, I just couldn't afford Liars. So the first time I got to see Todd was when he toured with Joe Jackson and
Oh, nice.
Ethel
Yep, I saw that show too.
2005, I think, in Edinburgh, in Scotland. That was my first introduction to Todd live. It was quite a night for us, since I've been a fan for about 12 years by that point. So
Yeah,
it
really.
was quite.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's quite an interesting intro to the live performance as well. I mean, I remember that show was so.
I'm a fan of Joe Jackson as well, so it was a help, but not quite as fan as I am of Todd, obviously. So I was there for Todd, but it was good to see Joe as well, and it worked. I thought it worked really well together, and you know, all the acts complemented each other very well. Very well.
Yeah, I remember the show very well, and my intro to Joe Jackson was very much similar to Todd, but my favorite Joe Jackson release still is Laughter and Lust, and he played a lot of that album that night, and that was really cool. And then, but I remember the most from that night, and maybe you can reflect on this because you were a lot older than I was at that time. I think you're 10 years older than us. Was the ending, you know, where everybody gets together.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I'm sorry, Ethel and Joe Jackson and Todd with Foamy out there
in his crazy jacket. You can't forget that.
In the crazy jacket, and I remember that acoustic too was weird. The spider acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really mature setting for Todd's art, especially as the first introduction.
I think they did as an encore. I think they all did together. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Black Mariah, Black Mariah, and Soul Brother. I think from Liars as well.
I forgot about that. I do remember that. Yeah, but that when they finished on the last song, when I had seen him, he threw out a pick, the green Tortex pick he always uses, and my dad caught it.
Really?
Gave it to me, yeah.
I didn't know that.
One of these green Tortex picks around here is Todd's. I just don't know which because I also use those.
Doesn't it have his face on it, the silhouette?
No, this is a normal. It's a normal ass green Tortex pick.
No, I know now. I think he does it like that. I think.
Cool.
One of these.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, dude.
That's so cool.
For the folks at home, Eliot just held up the actual pick that he used. That's wild.
Yeah, it's in my box. I've got plenty of them. Steve Vance and with Joe Satriani once here as well.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool. Man, that's wild.
Yeah, so the next show I saw after that was Arena, which was an album I loved.
Really?
He took that to Scotland as well, so that was about 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
We didn't get anything else over here until he toured state in 2013. Oh, no, tell a lie. He took an evening with show over in about 2011, and a few shows at the Jazz Cafe in London, which I missed, but did see him in Manchester. And then I had to travel to Holland and Netherlands to see him in Amsterdam with the orchestra. State he took over at the UK, and then after that he stopped coming here. So I've been coming to the USA at least once a year, if not twice, to see him since. Yeah,
hence the dedication on seeing him virtually. 8 times, or whatever it is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, there's nothing like a Todd show. It's the best place in the world, really.
No, yeah,
it really is, man. And I didn't. There was a few years where he just like wasn't coming to Cincinnati, so I didn't see him, or like I was too. Well, there's just a couple times where I just missed him, and I wish that I hadn't. I was probably just too young and 16 and just trying to get my wiener touched, so I wasn't worried about what Todd was up to when he was coming to Cincinnati. He also like hates playing at Bogart's, like famously, so he probably skipped a few tours here too.
Well, I've been lucky because every time he goes on tour, he comes to Cleveland.
He comes to Cleveland. He comes to Cleveland twice a year, and that was one of the things that I had considered when moving up to Cleveland from Cincinnati to be with my partner was, oh, well, Todd plays there twice a year. You know? And so
there's been some years I've seen him 4 times in a year. It's crazy.
Yeah. So now it's like, well, not now, but for the couple years that I was living here and Todd actually toured, or could tour rather, they were like holidays, right? When Todd, like you said, it's like a Todd show. The best Todd shows that I've seen have been in Cleveland, just because like the energy's there, the crowd's there. I remember one of the last Todd shows that I had seen in Cincinnati was State, and everybody left because it was State, and they were not ready for that. They wanted to hear, "We got to get you a woman."
Well, you know, with that being said, we've talked about this before. If these people are going to Todd shows, they must not be a fan, because he hasn't done that in years. You know what I mean? Like, is it just like some random person who grew up with him in the 70s and hasn't listened to him in like 50 years and just like decided to go to a concert because they liked one song? I mean, I'm assuming that's got to be what it is.
He still caters for these types of fans, though, with his evening with shows are
Sure, yeah.
flooded with the old hits, for want of a better word, hits. But he always likes to keep it fresh. And I think if you were somebody who could call himself a proper Todd fan, you know what to expect, and that's something different every time.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I think when the last, I guess it was the last. Well, I don't count White Album. We'll talk about that later. The last Todd show that I had seen was The Individualist.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the couple next to me, the couple to the right of me didn't care. I was in the nosebleeds because that's all I could afford. And a couple to the left of me really, really, really liked the first half of the show. "We got to get you a woman." Sometimes I don't know what to feel. All those Johns, which I'm like totally down to hear. But the second half was for me. I was there for Fair Warning. I was there for Lost Horizon. I was crying when he was playing those songs because those are my favorite songs. And oh my God, he's playing them right in front of me right now. So I'm glad that Todd's able to cater to that, as well as playing God Said right after you fucking play The Smell of Money.
Like, yeah, that was incredible.
It's amazing, man. So
I saw Todd in Columbus once, I think. Once at least.
Yeah. How was that experience?
Columbus?
Yeah.
Strange place. It was quiet. I remember during the day walking around town, there was not many people going about, and it was a Saturday afternoon. But it was, I mean, the show was great. A very nice venue, great sound. Couldn't tell you I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But I've seen him in Columbus once. Cleveland, I saw the Utopia show there, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him in Akron a few times.
Mm.
Never
been to Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati is. You don't need to go to Cincinnati. You're in Columbus. That's fine. Cincinnati's fine. I think even like when Zach and I were doing these episodes, we were analyzing, like, Ken Owens. Yeah, I know of him. Yeah, we were analyzing interviews with him and Todd from, like, I guess at this point 30 years ago. And he's like, "Yeah, I had to play at Bogart's again last night. It was a shame." Like, he really didn't want to. And then my parents saw him in 95 in Cincinnati Zoo. And that performance is on YouTube. I found it sometime during the pandemic.
Were you there? Are you?
I was not there. No, my parents saw a couple of Todd shows when I was born, but I hadn't gone yet. One of them was No World Order. I think that was the first one. So they saw the Todd Pod and all that shit. And then the other one was Cincinnati Zoo. And then it wasn't until 98, beginning of 98, they took me to see, oh my God, what was it called? With Twist Story, yeah. But anyway, so that's, you don't need to go to Cincinnati. Columbus is fine. It's just flat. I don't like flat places. And Cleveland's guaranteed to have a better Todd show, I'm sure. So you basically grew up with Todd, and your engagement with live shows and stuff like that, and even Joe Satriani and Paul Gilbert, they all love Todd. I mean, Paul Gilbert's done a cover, and not only that, man. When I listen to Paul Gilbert, I go, man, this guy just stole Todd's tone. There's like a hint of flanger here with a high gain, and he's doing a lot of the same bends and crescendos that Todd does in a solo, and his approach to solos are very similar. And I'm sure, I think you might be the one who told me this or shared this or something, but Joe Satriani has an experience with being on the back of the Todd album. You know about this?
He is on the back of the Todd album. And there's quite a few interviews with him where he mentions the fact that he's there. But and I actually had a look for him and thought I spotted him. Somebody looked very much like him, but there is an interview where he actually points out where he is on the. In fact, I know somebody, one of the UK fans over here, actually went to a Joe Satriani concert with their Todd album and got Joe Satriani to circle where he was in the crowd.
Yes, I saw that.
That's so cool.
That. Yeah, that's the one that I saw. And so speaking towards that and your fandom, I think what's unique about UK Todd fans, and this is speaking through my experience with two people, one of them being Carolyn Siddall, who I'm sure you've met.
Oh, Carolyn, yeah.
Yep. And then there's another gentleman named Jim Greer.
Jim, yeah.
Yep. What's really interesting about these Todd fans in the UK is because Todd doesn't, this is speaking through my experience, because Todd doesn't tour there as often as he does America, there are other ways that Todd fans are able to cling to his work, whether it be collecting or, such as like going and just buying everything that you could, that you know of Todd by the time you're 11, by collecting or going to the States to see Todd, or going to the Netherlands, which is a lot easier for y'all to do, frankly, than for us to do, to go see the orchestra shows, Metropole Orchestra. So what is your experience with other UK Todd fans?
Oh, well, around about, up until I was about the arena show, so I would have been about 25. I actually saw somebody at the show that I never knew they were a Todd fan. We got speaking to them there. A guy called Ben Rose, he's quite prolific on the Todd pages and on Facebook. And I just went up to him, not at the show because he was at the other end of the theatre from me. I went up to him sometime after the show and introduced myself because I'd seen him. We're quite big football fans. I'd seen him at football games before. I just went up to him one day and says, "Look, I saw you at the Todd Rundgren show the other week." He was like, "You can't be a Todd fan. You're very young," sort of thing. I was like, "I'm a big fan." It was good to see them. We just got speaking, and then he told me about the Rundgren Radio page on Facebook because I just Todd was my thing. I never had any friends that were into that music. I just listened to them on my own sort of thing. And then when I got into the Facebook pages, I got to know a lot more people, and I've met so many UK-based fans and US-based fans just purely through the Rundgren Radio page, any other page you can think of. I think that in general, UK fans are different to the US fans. A lot of the UK fans are more into Todd's more prog side, I would say, especially the male fans over here. Especially with Utopia as well. A lot of the guys over here, their interest in Utopia seems to wane after the original prog era. Not so into the 4-piece Utopia over here. I'm a big fan. But a lot of the guys over here, not so much. They're spread out. I mean, in the States, most of the big cities have a lot of Todd fans that I've met over the years. But here, you have to travel to the ends of the country to find a Todd fan.
Yeah, I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that he didn't tour over here as often. Even Utopia in the early days, it was like once or twice a year.
Utopia over here, they toured the UK in 76 and 77, I think. They played a couple of festivals. They played Hammersmith in London a few times. They played Nebworth Festival after that, around about the time Oops Wrong Planet came out, but Oblivion POV era, no chance. They would never, it's just two albums that people over here just don't speak about. I grew up with them and I love them, but I only speak about these albums to Americans, really.
It's ridiculous because those are my two favorite Utopia albums.
I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But just didn't take off over here at all. I'm saying nobody over here. That's obviously there is UK fans that love these albums, but they are very, very few far between. They just didn't take off here at all.
Yeah. Well, even then, like much like you had said earlier, I think Zach can speak as well, and we might have even mentioned it in the intro. Todd was a me thing. I couldn't get my friends into Todd.
Okay.
James, why are you such a good guitar player? Because I listened to this guy, Todd Rundgren. Oh, really? That's great. I'm not going to they listen to something and they don't like it, they write me off, And I was just in my case, an attic dwelling Todd Rundgren fan, Zach being a basement dwelling Todd Rundgren fan.
Mhm.
And even when we had decided and we found out about the Rundgren Radio event, because that was a crazy story. We actually had no idea that was happening right under our nose. And so we went on a whim and we knew that it was sold out, but we were still like, fuck it, let's show up. And if not, let's just go back to our basement and drink beer and listen to Todd, because that's what we're used to doing. They let us in. Thank you.
I don't think that would ever be in doubt. I don't think they're the type of people who would turn you away.
No, yeah, definitely not. We were very thankful that
it was so much fun.
They let us in because it was a very unique experience of walking into a room with Zach and then hearing, Zach, what was it?
Time Heals?
It was Time Heals. Oh my God, yeah. Walking in here in Time Heals, a cover band playing Time Heals.
With like 200 Todd fanatics, which you know.
And then walking up to the stage and screaming at the top of our lungs, "Hideaway!"
Yeah,
that was
John Poeda's band did that. They opened with Blue Orpheus, actually, which I've never heard live, and I was just
we fucked up, and we were showed up fashionably late, so we only caught the last half of Herman's set, but they still played bangers, dude. It was incredible. I mean, like, it was wild, what a wild time. So, and we met She-Ra, and that's right. I remember I forgot about this until now. You posted that entire set list like the following week of what She-Ra played and Hermits played. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God, how did I?
We were like, oh my God, we wish we were there earlier to see it,
So what was the first Rundgren Radio event that you had attended?
2015. The first one after I became aware of the page, really. Doug and Mel put on a party with 2 or 3 fan bands, and the main act was Secret Society, who completely blew me away. I don't know if you heard them. You familiar with them?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That was their first show, actually, and the whole room was just everyone's jaws were dropped with the quality of they were able to play songs like Caravan and Seven Rays and Fix Your Gaze, just fantastic stuff you'd never hear live.
Yeah. And
then Todd, the following 2 nights, Todd did 2 shows at the Akron Civic with the Akron Symphony Orchestra. He did a lot of tracks that he hadn't done with the orchestra in the Netherlands, so it was good. He did Change Myself and Hard to Love.
Yeah, it was a good show. That was a good show. I was there. Up in the
TV.
Yeah.
So that was my first Rundgren Radio weekend, and then maybe a couple of months later, I came back to Columbus for a weekend where we had another party with Secret Society again. And it was just one show in Columbus, but that was an evening with. Was it January? I think that was January 2016. And then the next Rundgren Radio event I did was when Utopia played in Cleveland, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Last one I did was before the White Album show, which was the one you were at.
Yep.
Yeah, I did not get to attend the White Album show in Cleveland. Yeah, I know, right? In Cleveland, I didn't get to go because I was playing a festival day.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, I didn't get to go, but I knew they had added, it wasn't like this initially, but they had added a date in Cincinnati. And I think it was their last stop. So, and I was, that's right. I remember now. This was the day after the Naz show. And so I was in Cincinnati already for Thanksgiving because of my family and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the Naz show. So I went to that. And then the next day, that's when the White Album show. So that's when I got to see it. That's right. If Todd's listening, I loved when you were on stage, Todd. It was great.
It wasn't my cup of tea. I traveled for the Chasm Utopia thing really because, I'd seen the Chasm Utopia show a few times. Really enjoy it. And in the setting of the hotel, I just thought it would be quite an experience. I don't think I would have traveled for the White Album show on its own. So I knew it wasn't going to be aimed at people, at me. And that, I was cool with that. And when I came home, I was just open about my thoughts, and it didn't do it much for me as a show.
Mm-hmm.
But Todd was fantastic as usual,
Yeah,
and
Gil too.
Gil was fantastic. Jason from Chicago, not my type of music at all, but he held it all together well.
Yeah,
There was good aspects to it, and it just wasn't for me. I knew that was cool. I saw it twice though. I went to after Akron, I traveled back to Chicago to fly home, and I went to see it at St. Charles in Illinois. So I did see it twice.
What was your first experience with Kaz? Like meeting him?
Oh my God, cousin! I think just random. So many Todd shows. Just you would say hello, introduce myself to him. Yeah, he's approachable guy. He's a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pinpoint a specific time.
Yeah,
just
I do remember at the Rundgren Radio event that he specifically called you out in the crowd and goes, "Eliot, good to see you. Good, Michelle, good to see you."
I mean, he does that. He appreciates the travel, the fact that some of us travel from the UK, and he always tries to include the fans anyway. He realizes that it's not the music that they play is not well known, so the fans that Utopia had are quite special, and that they're willing to give music they gave that music its chance, which it deserved, So Kazim holds on to that the best he can, and I think it's a nice touch, and it helps keep the fans included,
Todd Scott.
Todd Scott was fantastic. Todd's done a lot of these events over the years, and it's not my cup of tea. I like the concepts.
Can you? It could either make it into the podcast or not, but could you tell me why?
My motivation for it is, the accessibility to the band is good. It's always special, but it's not really what I'm in it for. The music is what drives my motivation, and it's so much to it, and a lot of what goes around it. It's not really what I wouldn't say float my boat, because I'm not going to. When you get the chance to speak to these guys and meet them, it's special. There's no doubt of that. But no, it's the music that drives me.
Yeah.
So I've never. So all these Todd stocks over the years and stuff, it's not been my thing really. But when he took it to Scotland, there was no way I could miss it.
Sure.
I mean, it's a 3-hour drive from my house. So and it was it was one of the best weekends of my life, really. I mean, it was just incredible. Todd being there, special guy, getting to speak. I mean, and he is as a person, he's I think he's completely genuine. He's not always in a jovial mood, but he's one of the most genuine people I've ever met, in my opinion. It's an honor to be around him all the time, or not all the time, but any time that happens. But one of the things that was special at Todd Scott is you couldn't get, in my opinion, a better group of fans to be around him, because I appreciated it.
And as of March 2021, what is your favorite Todd album? I know it changes with all of us.
I mean, I have a top 5, which very rarely changes. Certainly the top 1 does change. And right at this moment in time, for whatever reason, I think it's probably Nearly Human. The current tour probably has something to do with that, but Nearly Human's always in the top 5. I think right now it's probably Nearly Human. I mean, Liars is one of my favorites. I just think it's one of the strongest albums he's ever done. I'm a big fan of Healing, and Hermit of Mink Hollow as well is always there.
Yeah.
And the 5th that would probably find its way into that list would be Second Wind, I think.
It's just hard to pick. There's so many different styles, and it's. I mean, when we did that episode, I did. Well, we're talking right now. The second we did overall album, I did Something Anything just because where I started. I don't know, like it changes every day.
It changes. Yeah, it changes. I mean, yeah. And now speaking on that, you just got a great point. Why do you feel that Liars is subjectively his best album? I'm curious.
I don't know. I can't answer that. I just think it's a return to the quality that he was delivering earlier on in his career, which had maybe taken a dip. I don't like saying that because I hate being critical of a genius, but maybe for a number of years it took a little dip in quality, his output after Second Wind. I think he really came back with a bang in Liars, and I think it was a very important turning point in his career. Liars, I think he lost a lot of fans certainly over here anyway in his change of direction, but I think he held on to a number of them at the same time with the release of that album, because it really was a return to his strong songwriting and very, very high quality production as well.
I always say that Zach and I are really blessed, and you too are blessed as Todd fans, because we didn't have to wait for Oblivion to come out. Oblivion's already out.
Everything's already out.
Yeah. I mean, and like, yeah, I'm looking forward to Space Force or whatever. But ultimately we were lucky because now we have 50 years of Todd's music, not even including the production work, that you get to factor in to that whole soundscape as well. So that's really interesting that you feel that way, the little dip. It wasn't until this year that I really liked One Long Year. In fact, when Long Year came out, I was like 4 or 5, 6, something. And somebody gave my dad a burned copy of all the Patronet songs, which is obviously what became One Long Year. And I remember even being young and being like, eh. But now I listen to that shit and I go, yo, this is Todd. Like, I fucked up by sleeping on this. This is Todd. Like, where does the time go?
Wait, say,
yeah, great song and very classic Todd. The Mary one, whatever that is, Jesus Jefferson Mary song, like that's straight like a cappella era Todd. I feel like that album really was able to encompass segments of Todd's career up to that point, including the production of The Individualist. That's why I like The Individualist, is because you can really walk through that production in a very mid-90s way. That's very interesting.
I love The Individualist. It's just that it seems to be an album that a lot of people don't speak about as much maybe other ones, if you get me.
Yeah,
there's too many of them too.
You can reel off the great songs off Individualist. Tables Will Turn. Yep. Not Now When. Temporary Sanity. Brilliant tracks.
Cast First Stone, Beloved Infidel. Dude, I could just name off there's that entire album would probably make it in top 20 of mine. So
we should do a tribute album to Individualists, cover all the songs.
Oh man, that'd be something.
No World Order is a title track's one of my favorite tracks of all time. I love it. Some people don't. It's just personal taste. It happens.
Of course, yeah. And Todd's catalog lends to that personal taste. Like we were mentioning, how you recommend a Todd album. Just got to know the person.
Well, something for everybody.
Something for everybody. But people tend to just show off. I don't know, A Wizard of True Star and Something Anything. So, but that's very interesting, man. Yeah, and so you've had a connection with Todd. You've met him. You have this personal journey with him. How has that led you to other aspects of your life, or maybe even how you listen to other music?
I think I'm okay at separating. I don't look for other people to be like Todd Rundgren, if that makes sense. I like artists to be their own unique makeup. One thing, I'm a big music fan, and my taste is quite diverse. I would say, if I start listening to Todd Rundgren, that's me hooked on him for weeks. I can't listen to anything else. Same with Frank Zappa.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
If I put on a Frank Zappa album, I can't listen to anything else for weeks. That includes Todd. I put Todd down, and then the same thing happens with Frank, and I pick up Todd. But if my record collection is varied, and I do listen to a mountain of other stuff, but it's just difficult for me to put Todd down. If I hadn't listened to him for a couple of weeks, if I put on a Todd album, that'll be me for months. Todd and nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't look for other artists to be like Todd, because it ain't gonna happen.
No.
People
that's impossible. No, yeah.
I'll be influenced by him, but many artists are influenced by Todd. As you've reeled off in your own, like Paul Gilbert and and what have you. But
Yeah, I recently got into REL Pink because I know that they quoted Todd as being like a really, 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 really big influence. I didn't know this. And even when I listened to an album that they're like, yo, I listened to Wizard of True Star 100 times and I put out this, I still don't hear a Wizard of True Star because A-Watts is A-Watts, right? You know?
That's a common thing with a lot of these like bedroom pop, whatever you
yeah.
want to call that. They're like, yeah, Todd. And I'm like, you don't sound anything like Todd. Don't compare yourself to Todd. Nobody can compare to him. He's Todd. You know, it's
Yeah, same with when I was 16 and I heard Neon Indian for the first time. I was at a show of theirs and I had never heard it free. And then my friend was like, oh, their big song, they're gonna play it next. Dun 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 dun. And I was like, that's Is That Love, bro. These people sampled Is That Love.
yeah.
And it still doesn't sound like Todd. You know, it sounds like
the name of that band? I'll need to
sounds
check.
like their version.
Name of that band? I'll need to write them down. Have a listen. Who was that? Neon.
Yeah, Neon Indian.
Never heard of them.
I don't know the name of the song. I can look it up. So, Eliot, I noticed you have some Zappa stuff, and you were talking about Zappa. How did you get into him? What's your story? I know it's a Todd Rundgren podcast, but you got to talk about Zappa too.
Almost identical to Todd. Heard about the same time. I heard a couple of tracks. Frank's "You Are What You Is," and it's the first one I heard of his, and it just hit me straight away. I just explored his catalogue there and then as best I could, and I just became fanatical. When you grow up listening to stuff like Todd and Frank, it's difficult to appreciate the music that your friends at school are listening to because it just doesn't.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Now with Todd and Zappa, they have a huge catalog. Do you collect physical media? Like, do you buy CDs, tapes, vinyl, or anything like that?
I've got everything on vinyl. Todd's. I've got quite a few gaps in my vinyl collection of Frank, but as far as CDs are concerned, I filled my Frank and Todd collections up very quickly when I was a kid. I mean, but I've had the CDs through there, Todd and Frank, since.
Do you have a complete Frank collection?
On CD, yes, not on vinyl.
Oh wow! What's the number at now? Like 100?
Over 100. Over 100.
Yeah, that's crazy. Have you seen the new Zappa documentary? Did that come out yet?
I saw that quite early on. I managed to catch a copy of it. So
was it good?
It is. Winter's done a good enough job. The first hour is fantastic. I mean, are you guys Zappa fans?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Very much more so Mother's era than like
the first hour.
Yeah.
Zappa documentary is extremely detailed on the early part of his career with the Mothers and early 70s.
Yeah.
And then the next hour is it doesn't go into the depths of detail that the first hour did. It's still, there's some emotional moments in it, shall we say. It's worth a watch for any Zappa fan for sure.
Now it's not a biopic, is it? Or is it just people talking about Zappa?
Yeah. I mean, there's Gail's on it, his wife, and some other ex-band members, Ruth Underwood and Steve Vai's on it actually.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's very worth the watch for any Zappa fan, I would say.
Terry Bozzio, is he on it too?
I think he is actually. He could be.
One of my favorite drummers, man.
He might be on it, but
cool.
The one Steve Vai, I remember. Ruth Underwood was a few months ago, so now Ruth Underwood's on it.
Cool.
Now,
gosh,
go ahead.
I heard the story of Adrian Belew when he tried out for Frank Zappa's band. Have you ever heard this story before?
I've heard the story when David Bowie asked Frank Zappa if he could take Belew from his band. That was a cracker.
Oh wow! No, wait, can you tell us that story?
David Bowie went to see Frank after the show. Says, "Do you mind if I'm aware we a guitarist that would take him into my band. So I just turned around and said, "Fuck off, Captain Tom."
Holy shit.
Not Picture Tom, Captain Tom. Fuck off.
Oh my god, that's hilarious, dude. And that's where that kind of intersects the Todd cast thing, because during that tour, Adrian Ballou and Roger Powell, that was the time that they worked together.
Yeah.
So there's your Frank and Todd
I remember
connection
the first
there.
time that the video that I sent you, James, where the tour where Roger's playing keyboards, and I had no idea he played on there. And I was just watching. I was just going through a YouTube marathon of just Bowie videos, and I clicked on that one. That's kind of like my favorite era, like like the Berlin trilogy stuff.
Yeah,
and I just see Roger, and I'm like,
well, yeah, and then there's your connection there too, because the Hunt brothers played on some of that trilogy.
Yeah, and then
Monday. It was in the early Mother's Invention. He plays on one track on Something Anything. I can't remember which one.
Oh.
He plays one track.
Wow. It's
and
always
then
there as Todd Nuggets.
Roger Powell, and I was like almost crap my pants. I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, it never ends with Todd. Like, it's like, we say this all the time, that like it always goes back to Todd. It should be like the 6 degrees of Todd, not the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So, Eliot, I noticed in your background you got a lot of instruments and stuff. Are you a musician, or are you in a band, or?
I'm not in a band, and I'm certainly not a professional musician, but I've played guitar for a lot of years just for personal enjoyment. Nothing serious.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I saw when you were plugging in your headphones, I saw the 2 guitars there, but it looks like you had a slew of them in your jam space.
I've got about 8 kicking. I've got a drum kit underneath that cover there that I certainly don't play drums. That's not. Never been a drummer, but I do have a drum kit.
I have a drum kit too, but I suck. I like to play the drums. It's probably my favorite instrument to play, but it's the one I'm the worst at. It's just, I don't know, I like banging on the drums all day. You like that?
Zing.
You like that little pun right?
Zing.
I enjoy playing guitar along with the music I listen to, pretending I'm Jesse Gress for 5 minutes. That's as far as playing goes.
A lot of
and
it's kind of hard to play. It's not like normal. At least in my opinion, I'm like a punk rock guy. I was always a rhythm guitar player. Then you try to play some Todd stuff, and I'm like, I can't play that.
Well, I mean, I don't read music. I learn these things by ear, so it's maybe easier that way. I don't know.
I'm the same way.
Yep. Yeah, I've been playing by ear for 20 years, and I've gotten by just fine. I've also been very lucky to play with good musicians, and so I just monkey see, monkey do for 20 years at this point. And Michelle, your wife, does she know anything when
not before I met her?
You got into her?
No, not before I met her, but she is a fan now, and she genuinely does enjoy his music.
For
sure. That's a good thing. It was no specific sit down and show Michelle the ins and outs of Todd's career. It's just over the years listening to him. He knows all the words to the songs, and enjoys going to see him very much live. He always enjoys his shows, which is good because I like to go to his shows very much. So it's good for me.
Good. Absolutely.
So we were talking about collecting CDs and vinyl and all that jazz. What are some of your prized possession Todd items that are non-media related? Do you collect?
Fantastic question.
Do you collect anything like that, like old T-shirts or doodads? Or
I've got many Todd T-shirts that I've picked up over the years at shows, and older ones that I've picked up online. But I don't think I wouldn't say I'm a devotee of memorabilia. The thing for me is the music. So as long as I've got the albums to listen to, that's enough for me, really. But I do. I mean, certainly, yeah. I've got a plethora of Todd T-shirts in the cupboard there.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a collector of many things, so that's always. I mean, not just Todd stuff. I mean, I collect records, and I collect action figures, and you name it. So it's always a good question to ask people where they're at with that kind of stuff. Our question is: we know that Space Force is supposed to come out this year.
That again?
Now the Space Force is going to be coming out this year. says Todd said 2021. We don't know when. And it's going to kind of have the same formula as White Knight, with each track being like a collab with, whoever.
Yeah.
Now, if so that album's going to come out. For Todd's next album, if he could do anything, what would you want him to do? Like style wise, or
whatever he feels necessary at the time is fine by me.
That's a true Todd fan answer right there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would say the exact same thing, because obviously he's changes a lot. But like, if I had to choose, like, I would like just like a Todd and like grand piano album. That's it. Just a piano.
I don't think you would get that. I don't think his chops on the piano are maybe what they were. He might have considered that back in the day, but I'd be very surprised if you would get that now. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong, but I'd be
death metal Todd album. Because
I think there's maybe more chance of that than the piano one. He doesn't seem to sit down at the piano anymore.
No, I mean, honestly, the last time he did that was like at an Unpredictable tour, and he did like songs.
I was going to say the last time I saw him sitting behind a set of keys was an Unpredictable show, I think.
Yeah. All right. What about this? So we're right now. Todd's doing his Clearly Human virtual tour. We don't know what he's going to do next. What would be like your next dream Todd tour? Like, it could be like maybe certain songs you want to hear live, or like a theme.
Oh, that's impossible.
I've always wanted to hear Shine from Healing Live. Always. I missed the Todd Healing shows, so I would also love to hear Don't You Ever Learn's a song I would love to hear live. Now, John Pahida's band at Akron gave us that, so that was just a taster. But I'd love to hear those live. And if I was to pick an album show live, we could do the whole A Second Wind maybe one day. That would be good.
That'd be really cool.
Hermit and Mink Hollow, I think, would work really well live, but I think it's not a long album, so it would need another one. So we did, like you did Todd Healing before, we did Hermit, Mink Hollow, and...
All right, so our friend of the show, Dan, who does our intros, and he texted me yesterday, and I want to ask you guys. He said, do you know or realize that in the Tepte movie, when they play Fair Warning, it's a different vocal track?
The ending of that version of Fair Warning, because in the tree, this is how the Tepte ending version goes, okay? This is great for a podcast. It ends with, and a dream goes on forever. And it fades out, right? And then you see like the brain or whatever it is in the water or some shit. Okay, that's the only reason why I know that version is different.
No, okay.
That's it. So what's yours though?
Well,
it's just different. You just know it's different.
No, I mean I haven't listened to it. He just texted me about it. He just said it's different, and then I was like, oh, I'll ask these guys what they think about it.
Yeah, because the normal version, right, is like in a dream goes on forever, and then it ends with get my trip together, be a real man. He couldn't do that for what he needed for the movie. So I think what he did, and I only know this again because I watched this shit 2 weeks ago, it was very sad. And I was like, man, what do I need to do to be happy? So I watched Tepte.
So good.
And this is my life now, 1 year into COVID. And so I noticed that and I go, oh shit. And then I remember I was like, there was a couple of different moments throughout that where I had noticed that it was different. So that makes sense. Shout out Dan Podolsky.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. So that's really your story, and is very similar, very different as far as Eliot, and we really appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
You know, we know that Space Force is going to be like a lot White Knight in a lot of way, like Zach was saying, because it's a lot of collaborative efforts. What did you think of the Satch and TR and Prairie Prince song?
A little bit of a letdown. Probably one of my lesser like tracks on White Knight. It didn't really explore the abilities of Joe Satriani, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah.
But good live, fun live. It was, the White Knight shows they played it, I think. Did they? Yeah, Jesse did it.
Yeah, they definitely played it. They 100% played it. That was my favorite show. Was White Knight.
Oh, I loved White Knight show. It was
It's
amazing.
so fucking good,
It's
dude.
good.
He did No World Order again, so it's always a good one to hear live. But no, the Satriani's track maybe a little bit disappointing for me. I think it could have offered more, but Steve Vai's going to be on the new album, so that'll work well. And I'm looking forward to hearing the track with Thomas Dolby as well. So.
I have a question. Is there only one song out there with Steve Vai and Joe Satriani playing guitar on? And is it that Alice Cooper song that's awesome?
Feed My Frankenstein, isn't it?
Yeah, fuck yeah, that song's sick, dude. I mean, it's bad, but like, it's not a good song, but it's like comically good.
Steve Vai and Satriani on that?
Yeah, they're on that album.
No, there must be more than that. That's got them both on it, I think.
Okay.
It's from Wayne's World. That's how I know.
Fuck yeah, it's from Wayne's World. That's how I know it, dude. And I remember I was looking at that album on Wikipedia recently. I don't remember why. I was going down some weird like Alice Cooper rabbit hole. And I saw that they were both playing on it, and I love those solos. They trade off on solos on that.
Yeah.
And especially the way that they intro. You know what I'm talking about. This won't make it onto the podcast. You know what I'm talking about was the bass line. Boom, 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 boom. Very like 1990. Boom, boom, boom. And then they're doing the like scratch. And then Sash just tears in. And you're like, oh, dude, I know this is Sash. And then Steve Vai just counters it. And it's just so good, dude. So I'm just curious because I'm trying to listen to some more of that dynamic between the two best players.
If you listen to G3, have you heard of G3 before?
I thought that was a tour. I didn't know that was
a tour, but they have CDs out, and quite a lot of the jam tracks at the end have a trade-off of solos on them that are very interesting to listen to.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I didn't know that they put out albums. I thought it was just a tour. And then they eventually brought Zakk Wylde onto it and ruined it they had.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, Eliot. Well, we appreciate the time today, man. Seriously.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah,
it's always good speaking with Todd.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll see you sometime in the state, all right?
Yeah, hopefully they'll have a Todd party and we'll see you.
Of course.
Right. Until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yep. See ya.